Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Shay. I make videos about horror movies, horror TV shows, horror video games, and theme parks because I live in Central Florida and I feel like it would be a crime not to. And if you're not new here, welcome back. So, today's a little bit off the cuff. Last year, like kind of in honor of Halloween Horror Nights, I want to do something special every year, but last year what I did was I reacted to all of the Halloween Horror Nights commercials that were available on YouTube leading all the way up to the event that was currently going on. I don't want to do that again this year, obviously, because I already did that and I went through every single commercial. My cat just ran by so fast. So I was trying to think of what I could possibly do for this year's Halloween Horror Nights, which starts, I'm recording this on Friday, August 22nd. It starts a week from today. I won't be going until the Saturday, like the 30th, but it starts a week from today. So yeah, I am really excited, and I was like, what do I want to do? So I decided I wanted to do a video about the HHN icons. Like, the icons are such a big part for me of my life. They're characters I grew up watching, and it almost feels like they're sacred to Floridians in a weird way. I hate to say that, because like people will come from other states, and especially people that come from like California, and they come over here and they have no idea who the icons are. They're like, I don't know who these people are. And it means a lot to us because like I grew up going on the websites and like reading the backstories about each character, and it's kind of something I miss about Universal's creativity when it came to this event. They're bringing some of it back. The last 2 years they have had icons. I don't know if they're gonna have one this year, but they've had backstories and it's been cool. So this year I was like, I want to do a video about the HHN icons. However, everybody does videos talking about the history of every single icon, breaking down their lore and everything like that, and I just was like, I don't want to do the same thing. Like, I literally sat down to write a script, started writing it, and I was like, I don't want to do the same thing that everybody else is doing, where they're giving the history of every single HHN Halloween Horror Nights icon. So what I decided to do this year is make another tier list. If you've been on my channel for a little while, you probably know that I've done 2 tier lists. Last year I did one where I ranked all of the 2010s horror movies that I've seen from best to worst. And then I also did, at the beginning of this year, ranking all of my favorites movies from 2025 from the movies I saw. So yeah, I did that. I did those 2 things exclusively this year, and I haven't really done a tier list. I don't want to keep doing tier lists. That's just kind of like a gimmick, but I thought this would be the perfect time to do a tier list. Now, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to do that with this video. So, a couple of things before we get started. I'm not going to be going in order of appearance. The tier list maker that I have, it does it by, I believe, how the file is named. So we're going by how the file is named, and I think that's a little bit better because I don't want to just be like going down the list, and that you know, like doing all that. It's just, that's a little bit corny. So I think that having them randomized is even more exciting, in my opinion. The second thing I'm going to talk about is that I am going to be using some unofficial icons, some icons who did not get to be, some icons who really weren't technically icons, and like, you know, those are like the 2 biggest categories. The reason why is because I think they also deserve their due and they deserve to be talked about. They are a part of the history, whether they've been represented properly or not, and I think that it's important to speak on these characters. And then the third thing is, I'm going to give you guys like a brief overview of each character. Brief overview. I'm not going to go too deep into the lore. If you want lore videos, you can find them. But I am going to go into like a little bit of their story so you can kind of understand their significance. I'll tell you what year that they were the icon and how many times they've been brought back and mentioned before we do the rating. So, without further ado, let's get into this creepy critique. Alright, so here is our tier list. I didn't want to do the typical like S to F tier, so I renamed them. I have the GOAT, which is greatest of all time. These are the icons that, in my opinion, are untouchable, unstoppable, and they are pretty much the best of the best. Then we have Hall of Fame, which is these icons that have, you know, they've become iconic within the HHN fandom, and they deserve, you know, praise. We have memorable, definitely icon that we will remember as much as possible, but not somebody that is gonna be like in the status of the GOAT or the Hall of Fame. Let's forget about them is an icon who maybe just didn't leave a great impression on us, or an icon that could have been great but didn't do well. And then there's Who Is This, which is the icons, in my opinion, who we could just pretty much forget. We could just, they pretty much didn't matter. It didn't matter to us. I also want to say that I'm not trying to insult any of the creative process of Halloween Horror Nights. I know that every year they become more and more creative. This is me just having a little bit of fun. I might poke fun at some of the characters because some of them are very silly. But overall, I do have a respect for all of the, I mean, you guys can see this. There's so many, like, characters over the years that they've done this, and I think that's really cool that they've created their own lore, and especially because, again, it's been pretty much central to just Floridians. Like, people from other states and other countries might not necessarily be familiar with most, if not all, of these characters. So yeah, let's get started. Now, the first one that we have here is Cindy Kane. So I'm going to read you a little bit of something about Cindy. So Cindy Kane is actually the daughter of Albert Kane, or the caretaker. We will get to him. And she was supposed to be an icon for Halloween Horror Nights Islands of Fear. However, what happened was that the same year that they had been planning that out, there were a string of child abductions within the area, and they just didn't feel like it was appropriate to bring Cindy to the Halloween Horror Nights and focus on like all of like creepy children. So they basically just reinserted the caretaker, and he got a second year. She has come back in a couple of ways. She was featured in 2 scare zones in Halloween Horror Nights, Ripped from the Silver Screen, and Fear Revealed scare zone. And then Halloween Horror Nights 20 Years of Fear, she was featured in her own house called The Orphanage, Ashes to Ashes. She did actually appear again in Jack Presents 25 Years of Monsters and Mayhem. And then she also appeared in the Icon Scare Zone that year. She appeared in the house Welcome to Scary, which was based off of Cary, Ohio. The lore in that runs deep. Horror in the Heartland. She was in that in Halloween Horror Nights 30. So just a little bit of lore for Cindy. So, like I said, she is the caretaker's daughter. She is Albert Kane's daughter. And originally she wasn't supposed to be, but they eventually just decided to reinvent her story and make her the caretaker's daughter. There's really not that much to say about Cindy. She's kind of a throwaway character. She's had her moments in the event, but overall I don't think she's nearly somebody who's that exciting to follow up with. So for that, I'm going to put her in Who Is This? Yes, Cindy is in Who Is This. Next we have, and do not say it more than 3 times, Bloody Mary. So, this is actually really interesting. They did a really great job with the lore of this year. I wish that I wasn't as much of a scaredy cat, because I did go this year. I wish I wasn't as much of a scaredy cat that year, because I appreciate this lore. I remember going on the website and like reading all of Mary's files. Like, they literally had files. So in their version of Mary, I'm not going to say it 3 times. Yeah, I'm superstitious. In their version for her story, she is actually known as Dr. Mary Agana. She is a witch who became a psychiatrist. And basically, she thought that she was going to... basically, what she decided to do was she decided to perform experiments on people where they faced their worst fears, and it ended up killing them. So there was a whole journal. The website was really well done. Honestly, it's one of the things I missed the most about HHN was when they used to have these super interactive websites that like showed off the lore. So Mary Worthington is actually the relative of Mary Agana. And during her time as a school teacher in 1908, she was actually murdered, or she actually vanished. Sorry, she vanished as a result of a Halloween prank played on by the students. So when Mary Agana became a doctor, she picked specifically descendants of those kids that caused Mary Worthington to vanish. So yeah, basically she went a little bit, her biggest fear, let me see, because her biggest fear, yeah, one of her biggest fears was being watched, henceforth why she became infatuated with the mirror. And she was, as well, just like her relative, she was also murdered. She took over the mirror realm and she used that as a scare tactic to attack everybody. Unfortunately, Bloody Mary was not given too much of her dues afterwards. As iconic as I think she is, we've only seen her one other time. And the other time we saw her was in 2021 in the 30 Years of Fear event, where she actually got a section in the house. And I thought this was funny because when I went through her house in 2008, I was 17 and I was a big scaredy cat, so I had my eyes closed the entire time. And she was apparently right, always popping up at your face, and she looks very creepy. I love her design. However, I wouldn't look at her. There was one part where she was she came towards my ear and she was like, "Look at me," and I wouldn't look at her. So when I went through the the Icon's house in the 30 Years of Fear, the 30-year anniversary of HHN, I didn't know Bloody Mary was going to be in the house. I knew about all the other icons, all the other rooms, but I didn't know that she was going to be in the house. So when we walked into the this one room, there was all of these mirrors, and one of them dropped and she came out right at my face, and that was awesome. It was 2022, sorry, I think. Or is it 2020? No, it was 2021. Yeah, I'm right. That was awesome. That was awesome because I finally got to see her in the haunted house. And I was like, well, she got me to look at her because I didn't know that she was going to be there. So very cool, very awesome. I love seeing this this character. Now, like I said, her design is really cool. She's she had an amazing story. The lore was really in depth. They really put their whole foot into this story. So for that, I have to say she is memorable, and I wish they could bring her back again as an icon because I miss her. All right, so the next one we have is the Caretaker. Let's get to Caretaker. So the Caretaker is known as Dr. Albert Kane, and he was first used as an icon in 2002 when they switched from being in Universal to Islands of Adventure. So they turned it into Islands of Fear. He was the one that had that awesome commercial, if you watched my video last year, where he was doing the eeny, meeny, miny, mo. We love him. My cat thought it would be a good idea to knock over my trash can because, I don't know, she's looking for something in there. There's nothing in there for her, but she's looking for something in there. So yeah, he was basically a caretaker of a cemetery that was also a surgeon, and he would do, again, a lot of experiments, just like, other, just like Mary, you do a lot of experiments. Basically, he was a serial killer. That's what it boils down to. But he had a really fancy hat, so he gets a little bit of a pass for that. He did have, like I said, he had his own event in 2002 when he was, in 2002 when they switched everything over to Islands of Adventure. In 2003, he replaced his daughter as the icon for the year. 2003, he was kind of an icon as well, but he wasn't an official icon. He had his own haunted house called Scream House. He was part of the Sweet 16 celebration, and he's pretty much been a part of every single anniversary since then. He was in the Hallowed Past, he was in the 25 Years of Fear, and he was in the Icons Captured house. So, with that being said, where would I put the Caretaker? Obviously, the GOAT. He's so cool, and I absolutely love his character design. I really, really love the caretaker, and I can't wait. I know they're gonna bring him back because they always bring them back, so I can't wait to see them. What they do with him next time around. All right, so this next one is this next one is a little bit interesting. So bear with me here. So there is an icon we're going to get to later on called named Jack the Clown. He is a clown, and he debuted in 2000, and he's sort of become the icon of Halloween Horror Nights. They decided, though, however, that Jack needed an assistant. So when Jack came back for the Carnival of Carnage in 2007, they gave him an assistant named Chance. Now, if you heard Chance and you saw Chance, you basically think that she's a Harley Quinn ripoff, and she pretty much kind of is. She has like a similar inflection in her voice. She talks with a very high-pitched, childlike voice. She wears a very similar outfit to something that Harley has worn in like video games and stuff. Yeah, she's very much a Harley Quinn ripoff. That being said, I do really like Chance. I like her design. I like her characterization. She's always a lot of fun. However, Universal did her dirty, and I'm going to stand on that. So during the 25 Years of Fear, when Jack came back, him and her were pretty much like the icons of the show. They shared the stage, and it was super cool to see her come back. She was in the commercial. I mean, you saw the commercial last year, and I was really, she just really, really like worked well that year. So because everybody was so receptive to both Jack and Chance, they decided that they were going to make Chance the icon for 2016. I will say this. I did enjoy that year. There were a lot of great houses that year. We had a lot of fun. Me and my sister and a friend of ours went, and we had a lot of fun. Chance, however, was a disappointment. I did not go through the Lunatics Playground house, and I'm grateful I didn't because I've heard horrible things about this. Her scare zone was not really well done at all. They pretty much just threw her to the wolves. And for a character that is an offshoot of Jack the Clown, who is like the man, it's really sad that Chance kind of got did dirty. So I'm a little bit disappointed. I know we're probably going to see her again in another anniversary, but I am going to put it in Let's Forget About Them. I love you, Chance. I love you, but I got to put you in Let's Forget About Them because what did they do? What did they do, baby girl? They did you so dirty. All right, so this next one's interesting. This next one is actually the second icon to ever appear. I think the first icon was technically Beetlejuice, but he's not on the wiki. I don't know why. But this one was the second, one. And that is the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt. If you've ever seen Tales from the Crypt, he is a deformed looking, like, creepy looking creature. He has that really iconic voice where he cackles, and, he's been in so many things. I mean, he even shows up in, like, random movies. My fondest memory of him was him showing up in Casper, the Casper movie back in the 90s. That was traumatizing. The Crypt Keeper, there's not really much to say about him other than he is indeed the Crypt Keeper. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. Honestly, I'm gonna have to put him in Let's Forget About Them. I think using an actual character, an unoriginal character, at the time was fine because it tied it to the event and it made the event more interesting. But I think now, with all the creativity we've seen in the years of HHN's existence, I really truly feel like they don't need to ever do this again with a character. They don't need to ever have an actual character as the icon for the year. So this next one is kind of interesting because he's not actually an official icon, but he kind of acted as an icon. This character is the Pumpkin Lord, and I don't know about you guys, but I love myself some Pumpkin Lord. I wish he would have been a bigger presence at Halloween Horror Nights, but unfortunately he was not. He was actually in Halloween Horror Nights 30 in the Wicked Growth Realm of the Pumpkin, aka still the best haunted house that Universal has ever put on, especially with the restrictions that they had on that event that year because of COVID. Best haunted house they've ever put on. I haven't seen anything that's topped that yet. But he is, but he was like the ending, the last final boss you saw at the end of the house. And he would ask for your soul. He sits in the giant pumpkin and he like reaches for you. And then they decided all of a sudden in 2021 to bring him back as the unofficial icon. And when I say he was the icon, he was literally like right at the entrance, like right where the Villain Con ride is. He was right outside of there. And he just sat there and he interacted with people. And I'm not gonna lie, even though he technically wasn't an icon, like they didn't announce him as an icon, they didn't treat him as an icon, he was iconic. I mean, you walk in the park and you've got this guy in a gourd yelling at you. Oh, it was cool to see him. And it was also cool to see him come back. I did buy the shirt. I've worn it on this channel a few times. I bought the All Hail the Pumpkin Lord shirt. I love the Pumpkin Lord. A little bit of lore from him. He grows on Halloween. Each year he grows bigger and bigger, harvesting and gathering all the things that make Halloween what it is. So he's Halloween. That's the Pumpkin Lord. I'm very, very grateful that, that they did something fun like this. I wish he would be official. So for this, I am going to put the Pumpkin Lord himself into the Hall of Fame. I think that he deserves more than what he's gotten. I think that he is a great character. He's really cool. He's a really cool design. He had really great banter with the crowds as people walked by, and I'm just a little bit disappointed that we really didn't give him his fair shake. So bring back the Pumpkin Lord. Bring back the Pumpkin Lord. This next one was probably the last, well, no, the second to last official icon that they've done, but my goodness, is this this was a great addition to Halloween Horror Nights lore. Dr. Oddfellow was already established within the HHN lore. He was the employer and the eventual person who took Jack the Clown's life. He owned a circus, and Jack worked for the circus, and he was using the circus essentially as his hideout for all of his crimes. And then Dr. Oddfellow was like, nah, we ain't doing that. And he ended his life. So originally he was just a circus entrepreneur. He was just a ringmaster, really. However, in 2023, they decided to give Dr. Oddfellow his own story. So Dr. Oddfellow went from just the guy who ended Jack the Clown's life to being an entity himself. So he wanted to harness the power of immortality by using the Dark Zodiac. And that year, everything was so cohesive. I still say to this year, 2023 is the closest I will ever get to how much I love the event in 2019. Everything was cohesive. Everything meshed together very well. Each scare zone was part of Dr. Oddfellow's story. The Dr. Oddfellow's house itself wasn't great. I wasn't crazy about that house, but it wasn't terrible, and there were some cool Easter eggs if you're an HHN fan like me. Like, you saw Jack's costume. There's actually a scene where Jack is like fighting, like, but it's like a shadow. He's fighting with Dr. Oddfellow. So it was really cool to see those things. And the best part about 2023 with Dr. Oddfellow as an icon was the interactions. I really wish that I would have gotten the conversation I had with him on tape. He was in the front of the park, and he was just kind of walking back and forth, and then you could go and you could talk to him, you could have a moment with him. And so I walked up to him, I started talking to him, and it was me, my cousin, and one of my best friends. Like, we started talking to him, and he was like, he asked us like when our birthdays were, and then he was like kind of rating us for filth based on our zodiac sign. And the actor that they had playing him was very good at his part, because he was very charming, very charismatic, and I really enjoyed talking to him. It was like talking to like an entity. It was really cool. So I do enjoy Dr. Oddfellow. Like I said, he came back, he got his first official house in Halloween Horror Nights 32 in 2023, and he was the icon for that year. I really hope they bring Dr. Oddfellow back. Hell, I would love to see for the next anniversary year, whether it's next year or the 40th year of this the 40th year of this event, I would love to see a Jack versus Dr. Oddfellow house. if anybody from Universal Creative is listening, Jack versus Dr. Oddfellow house would be really cool. Just to see, you know, because Dr. Oddfellow has the Dark Zodiac. And I know technically in Jack's lore he has the cane now that Dr. Oddfellow had, but even if, I mean, we can retcon that. He could still have some sort of, he could have still taken it from Dr. Oddfellow. The house could still be like, the house could literally be Dr. Oddfellow trying to get his cane back because he's going to die. And like, then you could have it where, like, they like to do sometimes where you don't know who's going to win each time you go through it, or each night somebody different wins. So that would be cool. I'm just spitballing, but it would be cool to bring Dr. Oddfellow back. Dr. Oddfellow, honestly, he's deserving of GOAT status. A really, really great character, and I wish they would have, you know, had more of him. But he's the GOAT now. He's the GOAT. I love him. So that is Dr. Oddfellow. All right, so this next one is also a an unofficial icon, and he has gotten his dues. Much like Cindy, he was a canceled icon, but he has definitely gotten his dues over the year. And I'm seriously just sitting here going, why haven't you made him an icon by this point? Like, what is stopping you from making him an icon at this point? Yeah, what's stopping you from making him an icon at this point? And that's Eddie Schmidt. Eddie Schmidt is Jack's brother, Jack the Clown's brother, and he basically looks like Jack, but he is also Leatherface in a way. He's got this chainsaw, he's got this mask on. He's really cool. He was born in the Shady Brook Rest Home and Sanitarium in the late 1800s. He is basically like he's overly obsessed with 80s horror films, so he becomes an 80s slasher. Why was he canceled? Well, he was supposed to be the icon for Halloween Horror Nights in 2001. What happened in September of 2001? Any guesses? Yeah. When the attacks happened on the US, Halloween Horror Nights creative team decided that his event would be too gory, too violent, and too much for people after all the trauma and sadness that they witnessed for like weeks at that point. So they pulled him and made Jack the icon again, and Eddie just suddenly didn't exist. And the thing that's crazy is they actually even had promotional material with Eddie on it up until that moment, and then he was pulled, and then all of a sudden it was Jack. So Eddie kind of went into like a little box, and we never saw him again. But then he started to show up in houses, and, you know, we started to see a little bit of him. And he finally got, in my opinion, his full due at Halloween Horror Nights 30, when he had the best scare zone, Lights, Camera, Action, Eddie's Revenge. That was a trip through Horror Nights Past. It was so cool. It was a trip through Horror Nights Past, and he was the star of the show. And I loved that. I loved everything about that. Eddie really deserves his own year. I think they need to give him his own year to make up for the fact that he didn't get a year. At this point now, I think we're all desensitized from so many things, and it sucks. But I think people would like Eddie. He would fit in really well with the aesthetic, and I'd love to see him come back. So on that note, I'm going to put Eddie in the Hall of Fame. He deserves his due, just like the Pumpkin Lord. The two of them deserve to be bigger icons than they actually are. And hopefully someday we'll get that. So now let's move on to the sexy icon, Fear. Apparently he's called the sexy icon because he walks around with no shirt on. And more power to you if you find him on. But his name is literally Fear. The whole thing that they like had, the whole tagline was like, the only thing to fear is fear himself. And he is apparently the overlord of all of the icons. So basically every icon that we meet, Fear controls them. Now I don't know if that's staying true for icons that they create in the future. I don't know if Dr. Oddfellow is part of it. I don't know if the two others are a part of it. And there's also an icon on here that I don't know why he's technically on here, because he wasn't an icon really, but I definitely don't think he's on here. But I'll explain it when we get there. But his name is also Ataru, or Fear, you know, like, but I mostly just like to call him Fear. So his whole thing is that he has a lantern. The icons are stored in the lantern, and he releases each icon out to wreak havoc and bring him the fear of the guests that come to Halloween Horror Nights. Really a good premise, but I think it wasn't executed well. He was part of the 20 Years of Fear, like the part of the 20 Years of Fear lore or event, and I just don't think that he hit the mark. I didn't go to the 20 Years of Fear. I know a few people that did, and they just weren't impressed with him. So that's kind of unfortunate. But I didn't do the 20 Years of Fear. However, I did see him when they did their anniversary for their 30th anniversary. I did see him in the haunted house, and I was very happy to see him. Because I honestly did not know if I was gonna get to see him, because he was like at the beginning of the house and he came out and I was like, oh, I finally get to see Fear in person. So I was more excited about seeing him in person. Fear. I'm not really a big fan of Fear. I'm gonna drop him in Let's Forget About Them. I know he's supposed to be the Overlord, and maybe someday they'll make his lore so airtight and make his character so iconic that he'll like actually do something for me, but right now he ain't doing nothing for me. He ain't doing nothing for me. All right, so the next icon that we have, the next two icons that we have, they go hand in hand, but I'm gonna do them individually. And I will say this with the utmost respect: these characters were not used well at all. The concept was great, but oh my god, the execution was awful. So last year in Halloween Horror Nights 33, we had icons. We didn't even know we had icons until we pretty much got there. We're like, oh wait, we have an icon for this event? It was not announced. They didn't really get lore. It was just kind of thrown in our face like last minute, like, oh yeah, by the way, these are the icons. And we got the iconic duo of Sinister and Surreal. Sinister and Surreal had their own scare zones, and then they had a Duality of Fear scare zone, we'll call it. It wasn't really much of a scare zone. Yeah, they were just kind of going like back and forth, you know, they were just kind of going back and forth like that. So Sinister Scare Zone was the Torture Fair scare zone, so the scare zone outside of the Mummy in the New York section. I never saw her in that section. I never saw her in that section. I never saw her in that section. Like, I never saw her in the Torture Fair section. Except for one time. Oh, okay, I lied. I saw her walking through it to get back to the Duality of Fear section. But I ever saw her actually interacting. There's no lore for these characters. We don't know anything about these two. So, for that, I'm just gonna have to say, who is this? Who is this? And I'm gonna put Surreal in there too, but I'm gonna talk about her in a minute. Who are these characters? Who are they? Like, nobody cares at this point. With Surreal, I will say this: I had more interactions with Surreal during the times that I went to Halloween Horror Nights. She was up on like a float in the middle of the whatever that scare zone was last year that had all the like creepy eye people and the like people with the cloaks and stuff, which I loved that scare zone because the actors were very good at scaring people in that scare zone. But she was always on, like, she would always be on that float, and I did talk to her a couple of times. I offered her my soul. But again, no lore for this character. She just kind of exists. Again, this is another problem I had with last year's event. We'll talk about it when I talk about this year's event, when I go to see if they have made up for last year for me. Yeah, there's no lore for them. There's no really, there's no really big existence. Actually, do they have the name of the scare zone that she was in? Demon Queens. That's the scare zone. Okay. Yeah. Sinister and Surreal, who are they? Nobody cares. Like, nobody cares. They're definitely not going to be the favorites of Halloween Horror Nights. All right, now we're going to go on to the Usher, aka Julian Browning, which I love the fact that his name is Julian. I don't know why, but I love the fact that his name is Julian. So, Julian is actually an usher from a movie theater. Back in the back in the old days, there would be ushers that would come in and they would like make sure everything was okay. And Julian, we're gonna call him Julian, he loved the movies, and he especially loved horror movies. He loved to, watch them and, see them and all that stuff. He was very, very obsessed with that. He didn't like rude guests. He didn't like people who disrupted the movies, and I completely agree with him. Honestly, if Julian went to movie theaters today, now not the movie theater that I go to near me because it's like impeccable, but if he went to movie theaters today with people like having their phones out, people talking loudly like they're in their own house, I'm pretty sure Julian would just lose his mind. He would just explode. So he ended up getting into a fight with some rude patrons, and the fight and unfortunately led to his untimely death. And now he haunts the playhouse, the movie playhouse that he used to work at. So he basically is like the equivalent of like a person that would lean over and say shh during the movie, like that's him, except he probably would beat you with his flashlight. He did have his own house, Silver Screams and Shadows of the Past. He's been in pretty much all of the like Icons houses, and he was in the HHN Icons Captured house in 2021. That was the first time I ever got to see him. And one thing I really do love is that he actually did an interview on a news station in Orlando. And this was I'm not gonna put any clips of it. I'm just gonna try to find it and put the link in the description so you guys can watch this. It was so funny watching the anchors try to like, interact with this man who's very much in character, and he very much is acting like a creepy undead usher. Yeah, it was very interesting. It was very cool. The usher, I've only seen him one time, and he's doing his thing. He's doing his thing. But I will say, this was another instance where he wasn't really part of the promotional material, because this was the year that they did Wolfman, Chucky, and Saw. And because of that, they mostly focused on promoting those three movies. So the usher didn't have his own merchandise, and he was never really mentioned on the website or anything like that. He really wasn't like at the forefront, and I think that's kind of unfortunate. So for that, I'm gonna put this man in memorable. He deserves to have his due, and he's had a couple of good moments. But we do stand him in this house. So yeah, he's good. He's a good guy. All right, this next one is an odd one, and this next one I didn't even know was considered an icon. But I guess in a way he is an icon, and this is the only icon in the entire history of Halloween Horror Nights thus far who's actually a good guy, who's actually not a ghost or a monster or any sort of entity. He's actually the antagonist in a way. And that's Boris Schuster. Now, if you go to Universal during the day, any time of the year, not even just during Halloween Horror Nights, if you go to Universal during the day and you go in the New York section, there is one alleyway when you walk down and you look up that has a sign. I'm going to put it on the screen that says, Boris Schuster, private investigator. And that is the Boris Schuster that we talk about at Halloween Horror Nights. And it's funny because I'm pretty sure that existed before they added him into the HHN lore. I'm pretty sure that's been there, because I have memories of seeing it when I was a kid, but then again, I could be making it up. So it's funny. It's like they just were looking around trying to figure out, like, well, who could we add into the lore? Boris, we'll add him into the lore. And he became a supernatural detective. His first appearance, even though it wasn't physical, was in Halloween Horror Nights 2008. If you go to Dr. Agana's website, you'll see that he's actually like her op. Like, he's her op. Like, they just do not get along. And he's studying everything that Mary is doing, and he's very, very very close to discovering what she's doing to her patients. He did eventually form the Legendary Truth, which is a group of paranormal investigators who are desperate to find the truth. And then in Halloween Horror Nights 2021, somehow he was technically the icon for that year. And I'm really confused as to how he was the icon for that year. But he did have his own house, which was Case Files Unearthed, Legendary Truth, where basically you were walking through all of his case files, and you got to see all of the things that he encountered. So Boris Schuster, is kind of an icon. I guess he's an icon mostly because he fits so well into the lore. He created the legendary truth, and I guess they chose him to represent 2021's event. However, as much as I think that's cool, I got to drop him in Who Is This? Like, I know his lore. His lore is cool, but are you kidding me? Who? How are you gonna list him as an icon on the website when like nobody even knows who he is? So yeah, no. Yeah, who is this? The next one. Now this one is the icon to end all icons. I'm already gonna tell you, I'm already gonna spoil this for you. He is the GOAT. And he is the ultimate GOAT. Ultimate GOAT. And if you know Halloween Horror Nights, you know what I'm talking about. Jack the Clown. Jack the Clown was the first original icon of Halloween Horror Nights. The first original icon ever created for Halloween Horror Nights. He was first appeared at Halloween Horror Nights 10, and then he came back for Halloween Horror Nights 11 when they axed his brother. And every anniversary year, this man comes back. Some people are tired of it. I never get tired of seeing Jack come back. When I see that the hair, you know, his hair, when I see that coming in his shadow, I freak out. Like Halloween Horror Nights 25, I distinctly remember when they were announcing the event, they were announcing Halloween Horror Nights 25, they released a video where they were playing Pop Goes the Weasel, and you see Jack's silhouette walking towards you. And then he kind of walks into the spotlight, and then it goes, you kind of see him a little bit, and then it goes dark, and then he pops up in front of the camera, and he says, "Did you miss me?" I was with my ex-partner at the time, and I was watching this on my phone, and like, she had no idea that I was watching this on my phone. And I screamed in excitement so loud. I was like, I'm a fangirl for Jack the Clown. It's really sad that I've never actually gotten to see him like in person outside of like the haunted houses. It's really sad because I would love to meet him and have a conversation with him. If I ever do, I'm going to film it. He's had tons and tons of haunted houses. He's shown up in scare zones. He's had his own shows. He's also gone international. He's been in Singapore, and he's now recently gone to Halloween Horror Nights Beijing. So he's also gone international. And the new attraction that Universal released in Las Vegas, Horrors Unleashed, he's there too. Jack is an overarching presence through the entire event. Jack is Halloween Horror Nights. And this is why okay, I'm going to try to be as nice as possible about this. If you know anything about Halloween Horror Nights history, it started in Florida. It didn't start in California. The reason why it didn't start in California is because California has Knott's Scary Farm, which I've heard is regarded as the superior event to Halloween Horror Nights. I would love to go to Knott's Scary Farm someday. We'll see, maybe. But it was created here. Jack was created here. The icons are part of Halloween Horror Nights. That is why when I see people talk about Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood and they come over to Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando and they talk crap about the icons, it irritates me because I'm like, your event wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for this event. Your event wouldn't even be successful if it wasn't for this event. You guys wouldn't have had anything because you were not touching Halloween because of, I mean, they did try a few times and then they stopped and then they brought it back and now it's been going since then. I'm like, you wouldn't exist without us. So have some respect. That's all I can say. I'm not disrespecting Hollywood. I know there's a lot of people that say Hollywood's event is way better than Orlando's event. I've never been. I would love to go and see if that's true. But as somebody who's grown up with Halloween Horror Nights here, who knows the history of the event, we are the creators of the event, unfortunately, for you guys. And when you come to our anniversary years and you talk crap about the icons because you don't know who they are, that really bothers me because I'm like, without Jack the Clown and without his presence making this event bigger and, you know, bigger that year than it did, and him being, he was on TV, he was, you know, all this stuff. Without that, y'all wouldn't have a Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood. So at least just be respectful. You don't have to like our event. You don't have to say our event is good. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I have the theory that, you know, you're not going to like something that's not from home. So this is that's from home for you. If you live in California or near California and you go every year and then you decide, I'm going to go to Orlando's, you might not like Orlando's as much because it's not home to you. But at the same time, I really, really just want people to understand that you have, like, at least just respect where it began and respect. It's like it would be like me going to Disneyland and talking crap about how bad Disneyland is compared to Disney World. I will always, even if I don't like Disneyland, I will always have respect for Disneyland because that's where it all started. And that's how it should be for Halloween Horror Nights here. It should be respect for the event when you come here, because without that event, your event wouldn't exist. So, anyways, I'm gonna get off my high horse about that. It's just something that I see a lot, especially from a lot of content creators who do go to both events, who will talk a lot of crap about Orlando, especially if they're not from the area. I feel like creators who are from that coast will come to our event and then talk crap about our event. And usually the creators I've seen that have gone to the Hollywood from Orlando, they actually don't have a problem with it. And they'll say, oh yeah, you know, I'm not going to compare, or, you know, oh, I like this about this event. That's why. At the end of the day, I'm sure they both have their things that bring people in, and I'm sure there's things that everybody likes and everybody dislikes. I just want respect for the icons. And I think that's kind of coming from the fact that I literally, when they did Halloween Horror Nights 30, and I watched a recap video from a content creator who is from the West Coast, and they went through the icons house and they said, I didn't like that house because I didn't care about any of that stuff. Like, who cares about this stuff? And I'm like, who cares? The people who grew up with it, the people who lived here, the people who've been going to the event since Jack was introduced, we care. Don't say who cares. Just because you don't know who they are doesn't mean that people don't deserve, like, people don't care. You don't have to like them. You don't have to like the house. No one's saying that. But to say who cares, you could say I didn't care for it because, you know, I don't understand it. I don't get the lore. But to say, oh, who cares about these people? We do. I do. I care about the icons, and I will always care about the icons. That's Halloween Horror Nights to me. It sucks that they've kind of turned away from doing the icons, but I hope someday they will come back to that. But I care about the icons. I really do. So, anyways, tangent over. Jack the Clown, like I said, he's already, you already know he is the GOAT. He's not a GOAT, he is the GOAT. He is so amazing. And I've heard rumors that they're supposed to be making a Jack the Clown movie. I hope they do it justice. That's all I can say. And let's move on before I get back on my high horse. The next icon we have is an icon that I also want to say that I think was a wasted opportunity, because much like Bloody Mary's year, she had a lot of lore that kind of weaved through every scare zone and every haunted house. However, I just don't think that they did a good job with this character. So that character is Lady Luck. That character is Lady Luck. So Lady Luck is basically what you would, you know, like what you expect. She is a beautiful woman who seduces people into making a gamble with their lives, and then most of the time they lose because the house always wins, if you know anything about gambling. And she turns into a vicious monster and then eats her victims. She is known as a succubus. If you know what that is, then you know. And she is very, very beautiful, and that's how she lures everybody in. She did have her own scare zone called Your Luck Has Run Out that year in Halloween Horror Nights 2020. I keep saying 2021. In Halloween Horror Nights 21, she did have her own scare zone. She was in the Icon scare zone in the 25th anniversary, and she got her own room in the Icon's house in Halloween Horror Nights 30. And her own totem, so she's, I guess, part of Fear's Lantern. She's part of Fear's Lantern, just like the others. I don't really have much to say about Lady Luck. She is one of these icons that I really think we could just forget about. 'Cause, yeah. I'm not a big fan of her. All right, now we are getting to the last three, and technically these next two are connected as well, but um, I'm counting one of them as an icon, even though she's technically not an icon. But first, we're going to talk about the storyteller. Now, the storyteller is an elderly lady who reads stories, and the stories are they come to life, and they're just not they're bad. They kill people. The reason why I said these next two icons go hand in hand is because technically they were both the icons for the Halloween Horror Nights that they were part of. So the storyteller is telling a story about a place called Terra Cruentis, and I hope I said that correct. And the land is overruled by the Terror Queen. And the Terror Queen is like a sort of bat-like creature. She's like violent, and she does sacrificial ceremonies. The storyteller tells that story, and then the Terror Queen comes to life around you. Her first ever appearance, the storyteller and Terror Queen, was during Tales of Terror and the Halloween Horror Nights Tales of Terror. And then they came back in 2006 alongside Jack and another one we'll get to for a show. She also came back. Now, the storyteller came back by herself as just by herself in the 20 Years of Fear, as in Fear's Lantern. She also made a brief appearance in the legendary Truth Wyandotte Estate house as well. She was one of the fellow like icons in the 2015 Icon Scare Zone, and she also was in the icons captured in 2021, which she apparently revealed her true demonic form. I don't remember that, but a lot was happening. As for the Terror Queen actually did appear again after the first year's appearance. She appeared for the first time as, in 2005 for at the Terror Throne and Terror Guard run. And then she came back in 2021 for the Scare Zone Gorewood Forest, which was really cool. So I kind of got to put them in separate categories, though. The storyteller, definitely in the Hall of Fame. I feel like she, even though she's been around for a really long time, I feel like she is one that often gets left on the back burner, maybe because her actual story that she tells is more the focus of her year than her herself. And for the Terror Queen, I'm going to put her in memorable because she is definitely very memorable. I love her design, and I would love to see more done with her. I would love to see more done with her in the future. Like, she should get her own year, in my opinion. And now we're at our final person, and could not end with a better one, in my opinion. So the last icon we have is the director. I'm sure if you know anything about the icons, you were probably waiting for this one. Paolo Ravinsky, he was the main icon of Halloween Horror Nights 13. He is basically a snuff film director. That's it. That's it. And he's a snuff film director. He actually has been at multiple at both Halloween Horror Nights here and Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood. So he's gotten around. He's definitely gotten around. He had his own house in 2003 when he premiered called All Night Diane. He came back for every anniversary year. He was in the Icons Captured house. I had a moment with him. We locked eyes. It was beautiful. And he was also a totem in there. He's also a totem in Fear's Lantern. This man freaks me out. He's probably the most simple character design, but he freaks me out. I mean, like, not even like I'm not scared of him. Well, maybe I am scared of him, but I'm not scared of him like, oh, I'm gonna have nightmares. It's just like he's really creepy. Like, he's like that creepy guy that like follows you around at the bar. Like, I don't know. He gives that vibe. He's gross. He's creepy. He's gross. He's creepy. But I do love the director. And for that, I will have to put him in the Hall of Fame. He is another one that, in my opinion, he is fantastic. He's awesome. I do want to see more of him, and I wish he was kind of centered more than he has been in the past. So that that kind of concludes this tier list. Okay, so we have for the greatest of all time, Jack the Caretaker and Dr. Oddfellow. Hall of Fame, Pumpkin Lord, Eddie, storyteller and director. Memorable, Bloody Mary, Usher, and Terror Queen. Let's forget about them. Chance, Crypt Keeper, Fear, and Lady Luck. And who is this? Cindy, Sinister and Surreal, and Boris Schuster. So, wow, it just messed up my ring light. So yeah, that's it for the icons. I'm really excited for this year's event. We don't have an icon this year as far as I know. They haven't sprung one on us yet. But if they do, that would be really cool. I would love to see that, but I don't think there's going to be an icon. We've got a lot of really great things, but regardless, Halloween Horror Nights doesn't always need an icon to be good. My favorite year of Halloween Horror Nights, which was 2019, did not have an icon. And it was still one of the best years I've ever been to. To this day, it's still one of the best years I've ever been to. But I love the fact that we do create icons for our events. I love that fact because it's incredibly creative. It brings so much originality to our event. It separates us from the other, it separates us from Hollywood. And again, this isn't me knocking Hollywood or saying Hollywood's terrible or anything. I've never been. And when I've seen videos of Hollywood, it looks like a lot of fun. But it's what separates us from them. It's what makes, in my opinion, our event also worth visiting because it's different. It's something completely different from what you'll get in Hollywood. The icons being being hosts and, sort of, bringing all the souls in and collecting all the fear is great. I can't wait to see what they do. I don't know if they're going to do an anniversary year next year for Halloween Horror Nights 35. I am kind of hoping that they do. Just because they did 25, so I'm hoping they do 35, but we'll see. If not, I know the next one will be 40, which is really scary. I don't know if I'm going to be going to Halloween Horror Nights 40. I will be 40 by then, which is a really scary thought. The next anniversary year would be 40. This year is going to be fun, though. I have a feeling in my bones. Like I said, I got my ticket. I got my plan ready. I am so ready for next weekend. I hope that if any of you guys watching are going, that you have a great time. I hope that you, get to go through your favorite houses. I know it's going to be chaotic and crazy. You've got Five Nights at Freddy's. You've got Terrifier. You've got, Fallout. I almost forgot the name. I don't know what I was gonna say. You got Fallout. I mean, it's gonna be a chaotic year, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that it makes up for last year, because even though last year I had a great time, I always have a great time at Halloween Horror Nights, unless I go with people that aren't enjoying themselves. But I always have a great time at Halloween Horror Nights. I had a great time, but when I look back on the event itself, it was lacking in a lot of areas, and it didn't feel like Halloween Horror Nights to me. So for that, I hope that they fix it. I hope that they fix it this year. So that's going to be it for me. I'm going to get on out of here and go make myself some lunch because I'm hungry. Let me know what you think. If you guys are familiar with the icons, who's your goat? Who's the ones you want to forget? Do you agree with my list? Do you not agree with my list? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the little bell icon, and make sure it's notifying you when I upload. Any engagement that you do lets me know that you enjoyed what you just saw. I am on social media. I'm trying to be a little bit more active, especially going into HHN season. I'm going to be posting more on Instagram, and then that will be uploaded automatically to my threads. I really just don't like scrolling through social media most of the time, but we'll see what happens. So you can go follow me on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and if you interact with me, I'll definitely interact back. I would say Instagram would probably be your best bet, because I don't use Threads really anymore, and I really don't use Blue Sky either. I'm going to be hopefully uploading a gaming video. I'm not going to make any promises on my other channel, my second channel, Gaming While Creepy. Go check that out. I'm going to be continuing Secret of the Mimic. Finally, I will explain in that video why it's taken me so long to continue it. And then I have some more stuff coming up. We have some really good shows and movies that are coming out. We have some really good shows and movies that have come out that I haven't watched yet that I'm going to watch soon. And I'm really excited to get back into the swing of things. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time with another creepy critique.